people ask about MIT, right? What's unique about MIT? What is a characteristic of MIT? And a couple of things can always come back to me. The first thing I would say, if you're curious about MIT, what is MIT? We have the values written on the wall, and we have the values written on the front of the main campus at MIT. And our president actually said this at graduation last time. MIT is a place of curiosity and a place of excellence. So let me talk about those two things, right? We are a place that we like you to be curious, to grow, to innovate, to learn, to be challenged in a way that you're going to expand. So no matter how prepared you are in life, when people come to MIT, it's because they're seeking more. They would like to grow, they have ambitions, they have other things they would like to achieve. Well, MIT is a place that we hope to train you to achieve those things. But crucial to that is your own curiosity, what you bring to the table in order for your own growth. MIT is also a place of excellence. By excellence, I don't mean that everybody is excellent. That's not the goal, but it's a place that we hope that everybody can bring your best self, that you can search for excellence, that you can grow. So I always tell the students that no matter where you are in your life, we hope that when the moment you come to MIT is the beginning of an inflection point in your life. It's the beginning of a period that you're going to experience large growth, that over the course of the program, you feel that you transformed yourself and you are kind of prepared for what you would like to achieve in your life. And then the last thing I would say is MIT is a place that it's about the people. It's known for the academics, it's known for the schools, the programs that we offer, but it's a place that it's very special to me, to the people that work here, to the students. We call that, I remember talking to some students and I asked the person, I said, why did you come to Sloan? And the student said, well, because of the vibe. And the reality is that MIT is a special place that we work hard in our growth, but we're also good people. We try to form a community that will hopefully be very successful and very special for you. So with that, I always tell the students when they come to campus, now it's a blessing to be here. It's something I feel every day, and it's something that I hope that the students will feel every day, that you can get to experience something unique in your life. Okay, so let me pivot a little bit from the degree programs to what the topic is today, what's in AI. And with that, I'm going to start by saying something that it's at the MIT level, and then I'm going to zoom in into Sloan. So I'm a part of a committee that it's MIT, that it's think of the AI in education, AI in research, AI in the campus alive. And we've been discussing, and this is a report that we're writing that is going to go public probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So most of you are going to see this in the news in a few weeks. And as a setting for this report, we say, what are the challenges that we experience related to AI? The first challenge is the campus experience, right? With so much information in AI and AI being able to answer all those things for you, what is the campus experience? Why come to the campus? And this is something that every school is grappling with, that we've been very much mindful that we like the experience here to be even better, so that you can complement what you have here on campus with the things that you're going to learn from AI. The second thing is an alignment, right? With AI being such a resource, we find that there is an alignment about the resources available and what the students learn. So this is something that we're also very mindful, so that you learn how to use AI, and yet AI doesn't take away the learning from you. And then the other thing is that we are aware that this is changing so fast that the need for experimentation, the need to continue to grow, it's a must. And it's something that we have to do at a high speed. The other thing that I would say in terms of the high level, and then I'm going to get to specifics, right? So this report we're writing now, as I said, and we talk about some recommendations to the president and to the provost and to the community. And one of the first recommendations that we have is for MIT to approach this and think big, right? We don't want a patchwise solutions. We want something integral in which AI embedded and part of the learning, as well as the risks and finding the right balance. So there is a sense that we want to encourage significant experimentation and lots of innovation, which you'll see from what I present in a few minutes. We also talk about the need to be continuously improving. Well, I've seen it having been leading AI transformation in the last 3 years. The things that I did 3 years ago are different than what we did 2 years ago. That it's different than what we did last year, and certainly what we're going to be doing this year. And then, as I mentioned, the need to center on the human experience. So we like to say that MIT, as much as it's known for AI and technology, is a human-centric approach that we hope that those things are going to complement the humans and allow you to enhance yourself, but not to replace yourself for what it's worth. Okay, so those are high themes. So now what I would like to do is go a little bit to specifics, right? So I like to tell people that the way we approach teaching and learning and the way we think of you and preparing the curriculum for you has 3 parts, right? On the bottom left here, you have teaching support. This goes behind the scene, is not very relevant or visible to you. But we often focus about the pedagogy, how AI is changing the way we learn, how to integrate this into assignments, to integrate this into the classroom, something that helps you learn more, and then how to learn in general and how to teach. But most importantly, we talk about how AI is changing the curriculum. What are we doing with AI about what you need to learn? And that's what I'll focus on the workshop today. I will touch on the how part, but most of the workshop I'll focus on the what part. So let me get specific about the curriculum, right? We've been working in this space for a few years now. And what I'm noticing a pattern to emerge is that the curriculum in AI has essentially 3 buckets. You know, that they're not perfect buckets. They're not totally mutually exclusive buckets either, but they get a sense of the various things that AI can do and how we teach them at Sloan. The first one is the traditional AI methodology. We have a very strong operations department that has for years taught AI back in the days when AI was all about machine learning. And then with machine learning and optimization, we have a very strong curriculum in that. Of course, AI has evolved to neural networks, using much more deep learning. We have a course called Hands-on Deep Learning that is a very, very popular course. And then it has evolved to much more use of LLMs and agentic AI, which is part of the curriculum that we have on the methods part. In addition to that, we have a series of classes that talk about strategic applications and using generative AI capabilities. What can we do with generative AI that we could not do with traditional AI in the past, right? So we have a few classes that focus, for example, on generative AI lab, in which students use generative AI tools to create. Think of this in the organizations, generative AI for managers, for example, product management, product design, AI applied for business, as well as general things about, for example, global, as well as robotics. So there are several courses that are complement point 1, but I think of generative AI as a tool in the applications that one can develop with it. But most importantly, the way we think of AI is that the methods and the applications together, groups 1 and 2, build into 3. I mean, it goes without saying that AI is changing pretty much everything. So we can think of how is AI applying to strategy, to marketing, to organization, supply chain, finance, economics, ethics, accounting, and so on and so forth. So the way you think of the curriculum is that you have the methods, you have the applications, but the 1 and 2 go together into the applications across all business, as well as actually across MIT in science, in engineering, and so on and so forth. Actually, our president used the term like AI everywhere because the reality is that AI is being affecting all the fields. So you'll see that our curriculum has lots of dimensions here. I'm going to start kind of peeling these as an onion, like showing what parts of the curriculum touch on those things. So to give an example, I'll touch on something we're doing called AI Foundations. This is very much an intro course that we have on day 1. So students are going to arrive for the MBA next week or in 3 weeks' time. They're going to see this on orientation. The Sloan Fellow students that came in June, they saw this material. The Master in Finance students saw some of this material in July when they arrived. So every student is getting some exposure to this foundational material. Where is the foundational material? So we teach, for example, that in 3 parts. One is that is the basics of AI. Some students know this very well, or the students don't know. So we're trying to kind of level the playing field and get people familiar with how AI works, how to work with it, what are the resources available at MIT, and then practice applications that you're going to use in your life as a student. We also have a very interesting workshop that we developed that talks about the learning and the risks of AI and how to maximize your learning, how AI can use to complement you, but not to substitute you, right? There's the concept of automation and augmentation, that we like to use AI tools to augment what you can do, but not necessarily to simply automate what we are able to do. And then we tell the students, we teach the students much more hands-on workshop, for example, by basics use of AI, as well as like vibe coding sessions. So let me elaborate on the vibe coding sessions. Here's an example. So starting this September, we're going to have 3 workshops on vibe coding. This is done by the faculty in partnership with the student clubs, our students in the AI/ML club, in the technology club, product management club. So the students are going to go through workshops that help them to build their toolkit, their website, get familiar with some of the tools that they can use to generate almost like a portfolio. One thing I heard from the students is that the students say, Rodrigo, the CV is just one part of our like job skills. What people ask is, what can you do? And what we're trying to do in here is give you the tools that you learn and then you apply and you can build. So for example, in the toolkit, building with no-code platforms, the Stack AI is one that we use. We've been using a lot of Cloud Code more recently, and then going and doing a deep dive in this into some sort of a full stack application that you can use with some of these tools. The other thing that we have is that the students then apply this to a builder maker space. This is a pro seminar that we've kind of launched this year. It's being led by 2 professors, Rachel Card and Austin Van Loon. Rachel is going to lead in the fall, Austin will lead the seminar in the spring. And the idea here is to have hands-on every Monday, a place in which students can learn how to build, develop expertise to generate and put AI into use for the things that they are interested in. For example, here's a layout of what we plan to do. Right, as I mentioned, that there will be some vibe coding sessions and tool building in the beginning. Then we have sprints that you work in a team to build, prototype, then you go have a second one, and then you have a kind of portfolio presentation towards the end. So this is just the intro course. This is just the foundations that we do to get everybody up to skill and fluent with the tools that are available today. Perhaps more important, if you take a step back, how is AI shaping the curriculum overall? So in addition to the intro foundations, we've also done a mapping of how AI is changing the fields. So for example, these are core classes in the MBA program. Every student that comes to the MBA will have to take economics, data models and decision, organizational process, accounting, and communications. So we've asked the faculty to say, how are you embedding AI into your curriculum? Not the AI for the methodology per se, but how is that changing economics or communication or accounting, financial statement analysis, for example. In addition, how is AI changing our electives, such as finance, operations, marketing, and strategy? So you can see that we've been building the material to not only have the intro tools, but to think about how they map into various parts of management. In addition to that, there have been many classes, electives courses that have been created to kind of like substantiate the curriculum in this space. So I have been thinking about this a lot, spend a lot of time thinking about the curriculum, and now I feel pretty good that we have something at the foundations to ramp up your skills immediately in the core, and then a series of electives that you can use to shape your knowledge and application in that space that tailors you. Couple other things, right? They relate to the point that I just said. Not everybody wants to be the same thing, right? We've realized that some students would like to come here and be proficient users of AI. You like to be able to apply these tools to solve business problem, even if you're not building an AI solution, for example, or managing an AI team. Others could be managers, a translator that basically goes from the building team to the business application and managing team, for example, management consultants, product management, AI officers, translating applications of AI to the business. And then some students are going to go deep and build. And actually what we're seeing is that a lot of product management, now that we vibe coding, a lot of our students that were in the translator category are building themselves. So we're seeing a big jump in the percentage of students here that are in the orange group. And you can think of different students are going to have different needs, right? So I try to organize this in terms of curriculum. What would the AI user student take while at Sloan? Well, we have the foundations course, we have the data models and decisions class, and then we have some additional material that we'll talk about in a few minutes. For example, this universal AI material, as well as AI plus X courses. Someone that wants to go a little deeper, the translators, for example, can take deeper courses. AI Edge is a course that we offer. We have many of those courses in Bucket 2 that have applications, and then you have deeper courses that you can go into learn how to build. And then if you would like to go even further, you can take everything that is in green, everything that is in blue, and then do some additional courses, especially courses across the institute. For example, AI Studio is a class offered at the Media Lab. We have a bunch of computer science courses, and so on, right? So you can find your path. Some of you might be looking for to use AI proficiently. Some would like to be in the middle category, and some of you would like to go all the way and build. We hope that we have enough at Sloan that I can fulfill your needs, no matter how different they are. A couple other things, and then I might pause, and then we can kind of open for Q&A. But let me talk about some other things that I have in here that will be relevant for you. So in order to do this, we had to beef up the tools also, right? So for example, MIT has a platform called Parlay, and through Parlay you have access to OpenAI models, Claude models, Google Gemini models, as well as some kind of open source models. Parlay also has API access for people doing coding and programming. But we've also we're working on a Claude for higher education subscription that every student that comes to Sloan will have access to Claude, and you can code to Claude Code, or you can use, for example, Claude Co-work, and some of the tools are available for your own productivity. We also have access to Stack AI for people building no-coding platforms. Some students are heavy users of Colab, or for example, Google and some of the Google Suite. So those are things that these students will have access while you're here, so that you have the tools required to be able to implement the things that you learn in the classroom. In addition to that, what we've heard from the students is that sometimes you focus on a particular area. Let's say you are doing strategy, and they'd like to know how is AI changing, like saying the consulting management and practice, like the strategy. But you'd like to know other things. How is AI changing finance? How is AI changing the agentic part? How is the governance, the ethical issues in AI? So we have a workshop series. These materials are public, are available, and for our students and the alumni community that we've had last spring. So we had 8 talks, for example, on how AI is changing practicing management in general, finance and retirement, agents, learning, the cognitive science, ethics, market research, strategy, organizational process. And that's a speaker series that we hope to continue. I'm about to schedule some new talks for the fall. We're going to have some new ones for the spring. So not only take the material in our class, but you can also go into some of this to give a broader vision and of what AI is about. The last thing I would say, it's not necessarily the first thing that we'll push for the students here, but every student at MIT also has access to what we call Universal AI. Universal AI is an online platform that we have in a website called learn.mit.edu. And if you go there, for example, there will be a variety of courses. So these are examples of courses in the AI space. I myself, I was not an AI expert when I came to the Dean's office about 3 years ago, and I've done basically all those modules here. If you're going here, all the modules 1 to 12, 14, I've kind of taken them, and now I'm starting to think of what's AI changing sustainability, transportation, medicine, entrepreneurship, finance, and so on. So we've been kind of thinking about a wide range of applications. You have access to this material as part of MIT as well. So Rayvon, this now might be a good time for a pause. I see that there are some questions here, open questions in Q&A. So if you want to go back, I'll pause these slides for a minute. If you want to take a picture here of the QR code just before I pause the slides, any questions that you have, this might be a good time. So let me leave the slides here for maybe 5-10 seconds, and then I'll pause the slides, and I'm happy to have this in more conversational form.
Thank you so much for a very informative presentation, Rodrigo. Definitely appreciate it. I see that folks are raising their hands. We are not using the raise hand feature during this webinar. If you have questions, please funnel them through the Q&A. Please and thank you. One of the things that you touched on in your presentation and reminded me of was the series that you all were running throughout the course of last year, AI Plus. I learned a wealth of things as it pertains to the different topics. Can you maybe elaborate on some of the themes that were discussed last year so participants can learn how MIT is positioning itself to be at the forefront of a lot of the different things that are happening in the AI space?
Yeah, hold on, let me organize my screen again if I'm gonna share the screen. So I think there are two parts to your question, Rayvon. What I find it that it's key is for students to understand that AI is the tool and the application, but the way it's changing is primarily in group three, not primarily, but the wide range of applications can be in any field. So if a student's interested in product management, you can think of how is AI changing product management. If you are like interested in our LGO program, you can think of how AI is changing manufacturing. Some students might be doing marketing, some students might be going to finance, right? So what we tell the students is that there will be a variety of courses here in the AI plus X category that you can learn. But in addition to this, we give talks that try to cover a range of AI plus X applications. So if you go here to the series that we had last spring, we had, for example, Professor Dimitris, he talked about 10 different areas in medicine, in law, in supply chain, in optimization, in agriculture. Professor Andrew Lowe talked about AI in finance, in particular with retirement planning. Ramesh is a professor at the Media Lab that has been talking a lot about agentic economy. So he gave a talk about how AI is turning to agents and how agents are interacting and how we think of the evolution of agentic field. Professor Eric So, he's been talking a lot about the cognitive risks, how AI is helping us and potentially hurting our learning. So he gave a very interesting talk about this, about the cognitive implications of AI. We had Professor Jeff Saviano. He has a new course in the ethics and the governance of AI, very important topic these days. And he gave a talk on this about in a book that he just wrote. Professor John Horton, for example, talked about this in market research. And then we had Doso and Kate Kellogg, both of them teaching our core, and they talk about AI changing strategy as well as organizational process. Let me say one thing, Riv, on that for the fall, we've been starting to schedule some of these talks. So we hope to have, again, another overview talk. We have someone from Microsoft that will come here and speak with us about a playbook about how they implement AI within organizations. We hope to have Simon Johnson talk about AI in the workforce. And then maybe a few other ones like say marketing applications as well as climate. We have John Sturman, for example, said he would like to give a talk on the climate aspect of AI. So this is likely to continue. It's something that we hope to build as a kind of portfolio here that we can offer to students and beyond.
That is awesome. Another question that we have, a participant is wondering, has AI shifted the atmosphere for Sloanies to start businesses more boldly, excuse me?
Well, if you go back in here, right, part of this vibe coding workshop is intended to not accelerate, but give the students the tools and ability to do that, right? So some students would like to build, and they would like to come here and say, I'm not very familiar with build. How can I build? I have ideas, but don't know necessarily how to build. Well, this is intended to accelerate that. It's part of the feedback we got from the students in tech, students in product management, students in the AIML club. Let me say one other thing, and I don't have this open here right now, but our entrepreneurship curriculum, you may be familiar if you Google, for example, discipline entrepreneurship at Sloan. That's a very famous class that we have that Bill Wallet teaches, and the whole material is integrated into AI now. So we have what Bill calls the orbit jetpacks, in which you can do entrepreneurship through embedded AI tools. So yes, we are hoping to integrate these tools that can help accelerate some of this content in entrepreneurship and building as well.
Awesome, thank you. And you touched on this a little bit during the course of your presentation, your slides, but we had a question. How are you helping current MIT students in preparing for the changing career landscape and career paths with AI?
Yeah, so this is I would say this is a difficult question, right? Because of course the career implications is in everyone's mind, right? How is AI changing business? And the reality is that we don't know all the answers, to be honest, right? If we knew the answer, that would be easy. What we've been doing is that we are helping you to build the tools. We are learning from the industry. What are the things that you need to know? For example, this builder workshop the builder workshop that I presented here today and the code, this is something that came straight from feedback from the industry and from the students in terms of saying, we need to know how to build. And we hope that by preparing you to do that, you'll help in your career, you'll help you in this. Of course, I would also like to tell students that at Sloan, we teach the 1 and 2 because we like you to know the understanding of the evolution of the methods. It's very easy to jump straight into ChatGPT or Claude and use some of the LLM capabilities, but we have a very wide range of AI applications that we would like our students to understand and be able to code and create that. So one class, for example, that has been very popular is the hands-on deep learning class. And the students help to code and create some of those models themselves, even if they might not do this outside, but at least they understand and be able to converse. So we've been talking heavily, right? We think we are preparing our students for a world in which AI is going to be embedded. At the same time, I'm very mindful of giving tools that augment you, but make sure that you are here being challenged, being kind of like learning, leveraging your kind of personal experience that you're having here as part of the program. So it's almost a contradiction that I would like you to be as proficient with AI as possible and yet not rely on it for your own learning and cognitive judgment, because that's crucial that we think you'll complement. It's almost like a human AI joint focus.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And another question that we have, can you give an example of how you continuously revised your approach in the past year? What was the change and the logic behind it?
Oh, this whole presentation, like the whole presentation here didn't exist 2 years ago, right? Say, I'll give an example. The whole set of classes here in the bucket 2 did not exist 3 years ago or 2 years ago, especially generative AI, because it didn't exist, right? Some of the classes here, hands-on deep learning, was a new course that we added because of realized the importance that deep learning was getting in LLM applications. AI Edge is a new course that we're creating this fall. It hasn't happened yet. They're revamping the curriculum. All the electives that I showed here, these are courses that, for the most part, if you went 2 years ago, they didn't exist, right? So we've been the innovation in the curriculum is happening really fast. This discussion I had about how AI is changing the core, you can imagine none of this existed 2 years ago. So the examples go from beginning all the way to end. In fact, the whole AI foundations and the AI builder material that we're going to launch this fall didn't exist last spring. So if I had a time series here, I could show things that have been added almost every semester in the last 2.5 years, more precisely since the fall 2023, once kind of ChatGPT started with 3.5 in the spring, and then it became kind of more heavily used by the fall. So the change, this just to say, the change is constant, right? And I already have ideas. For example, the AI plus X series that I mentioned, right? That didn't exist. We launched that in February. The students really like it, so we're going to repeat in the fall. The AI Builder was feedback from the students. We will launch in the fall. The AI Foundations, we had 2 modules last year, but then we beefed it up this year. So the change is constant.
Awesome. And that actually leads into another question that we got that touches on my favorite aspect of Sloan, and it kind of it leans into the community piece. So one of the questions that we got was, what are the resources at MIT that are used for testing the AI products built in class by students? Do students help each other in testing the products built over a period of time, or are there any specific resources like any kind of labs?
Well, so let me go back in here. Last year, Generative AI Lab, Generative AI for Managers, and then there was a AI Venture Studio in the Media Lab, work labs that are very hands-on class that is student use. So that was as of last year. As of this year, that's exactly what we hope to achieve with the Builder Space. This is to create a place that the students co-create. This is hands-on, this is student-driven, this is peer-driven. The idea here is to learn, to build, to collaborate, give feedback, repeat. learn, build, collaborate, repeat. So I'm very excited about the builder space. I'm looking forward to attend some. I'm actually going to be attending some of these sessions here myself to see the sprints. Look forward to see the portfolio and the gallery presentation and the student put it in. These didn't exist, as I said, didn't exist last spring, for example. This is a new course that we have that is intended to create exactly that ecosystem that was just asked, and there is space for not only from the faculty, but for the students to have peer feedback.
Awesome. And you actually touched on this next question, so it's a simple yes. Is the AI curriculum also being integrated into the action learning labs as a way to apply tools into real world cases?
Yeah, definitely, right? And then kind of like say, well, certainly in the builder. Well, one thing I would say, this AI builder space, there are two groups of students that have been very important in co-creating this. One is the students in our builder AI and ML clubs, but the other one is the students in product management and tech. And we do have a product management lab that it's taught by Professor Rachel Card. So not only the builder space that happens in the fall has a natural segue to product management, it's a course that we offer in January all the way to the spring. So these things are definitely intertwined. Both like the generative AI lab, in the classes that I mentioned before, product management natural one. I know a lot of this has been used in finance lab as well, and then there are obviously others. It's hard to imagine these days product solutions that don't have some use or not maybe explicit reliance of AI. And then a lot of this happens in the projects that the students are working.
Okay. And then we also had another.
Rayvon, can I say one thing? I don't have a slide here in front of me, but if you Google MIT Sloan Action Learning, you'll get to our action learning site. If you want to, like maybe Rayvon or Catherine, you can put this in the chat for the students to access. But one thing that you should know is that MIT is a place that we call it MIT's, the motto at MIT is the mind and the hands, mens and manus. So we learn and we apply. We learn and we apply, right? So we do lots of action learning, experiential learning. There are about 20 courses of experiential learning in the fall, winter, and spring terms. And I've heard students that will take, most of the students take at least one experiential learning during, let's say, a 2-year MBA program. But I've heard students taking 3, 4, sometimes even 5. So experiential learning and hands-on applications is, yes, very much a part of your curriculum and your experience here at MIT, and certainly also at MIT Sloan.
Awesome. Have you seen AI change the kinds of startups Sloan students are building, or has it changed how students approach entrepreneurship more broadly?
That is, I think, a good question for the entrepreneurship group. I see the tools being applied. I don't know if it's changing so much the ideas, because at the end of the day, the ideation is about the ideas. And then, of course, AI can allow you to build, can allow you to code. You have less reliance on a bigger team. You can do a lot of those things yourself. But what we want the students is to have kind of the idea. In fact, there is a comment there. Someone had a question about kind of the learning and the cognitive part. So maybe let me say something about this, Rayvon. This is very interesting. So this workshop here that we did in the AI Foundations, this is a seminar in the cognitive outsourcing of AI. Professor Eric So leads it, and he likes to talk about this. We always think of what AI does for us, and he poses the uncomfortable question of what does AI does to us, right? To the extent to which it could affect our learning, ability to retain, to generate judgment, and brainstorming. And this workshop is intentionally intended to do this. We think about what are your goals, what are signature skills that you like to build, and how is AI helping you achieve that as opposed to taking that away from you. We often talk about the AI helping you automate process, but hopefully augment your ability to do things. And we are much more interested in AI augmenting you as opposed to automating process for you, because you worry about the risks of you delegating things that are important for your learning, for your cognitive evolution, that if you outsource to AI, you might lose the opportunity to grow. So that's a great question, something we're very mindful that I would like to retain. It goes back to what I said in the beginning about, the psychology part, the human-centric aspects of growing a world with AI, and at the same time focus. We are on campus experience. I want the students to learn, to grow, and focus on the humanity aspect of it, understanding that AI is going to be used everywhere at the same time.
Appreciate that. I think
This is,
another.
I think, point 3 here speaks a lot to that question about the student experience, the focus on the ethical issues, the technology to augment human work, and build the resilience to maintain judgment and autonomy.
Couldn't agree with you more. And kind of just a deeper dive on this topic. In life, there are always pros and cons to everything. So one of the questions that we got is, what is the impact of AI bringing to the MBA landscape? And then the person was curious, what are some positive and negatives of this approach?
It's a more philosophical question, right? There is no, I would say, so let me take a step back, right? I have 2 kids. One of them 17-year-old, and it's applying to college this year, right? So of course I worry about him and think of how he's going to grow in a world in which AI is going to be prevalent. And I have kind of this, you need to learn how to live with this apparent contradiction, right? That we can't ignore the presence of AI, and you need to be able to use it. You need to be able to take advantage of the technology. When people worry about the jobs, well, it's better if you know how to use it. The companies are asking for the proficiency, and we want that from you. So we'll teach you to be proficient, to be able to go in the job and say, yeah, that I can do it. I can build this. I have this. At the same time, we want that to, I worry that this can take away your learning. And this, here at MIT, I think there is an element of pushing you and help you, and at the same time resisting that to force you to struggle, right? Professor Erickson likes to say, value the struggle, because the struggle allows you the cognitive evolution, the growth that you'll have. It's that fine line that I think we're all trying to achieve, right? For you come to a place that you're going to be provoked, that you're going to learn, that you're going to grow so much, and yet this is just a tool, right? We want that growth to happen inside you, in addition, in complementation with the tool. It's not easy. I think many universities are struggling to find the right balance. All I can tell is that we are trying really hard. We're aware of it, and we're trying to innovate on both fronts. Like a proficient use of AI, and yet the non-dependence on it, that you can preserve what you bring, the human aspect that you bring to the table and to the jobs that you're going to join and that you're going to create in the future.
Awesome. We probably have time for maybe 2 more questions. Um, the next question is, with AI coding assistants and tutors accelerating how quickly students finish lab assignments, how are instructors preventing surface learning where students ship working code without fully grasping and underlining algorithmic mechanics?
Yeah, very important question as well. Like say like this is the kind of question that I think poses other questions. What I can tell you, every single university in the world is trying to figure out the answer to that question. I can tell you what we did. So last Friday, I was running a workshop here in my office with faculty in which we did exactly that. We had 30 faculty on Zoom, and we said, put your assignment on AI. Can AI solve it? Okay, now that AI can solve it, what else would you change? And how would you change that assignment to kind of make sure that the students learn and that they engage and make it a bit more dynamic? So we have been thinking the role of assignment, right? We have been valuing in-person experience. We have been valuing the creativity, spontaneity that you need in the class participation, presentations, in addition to exams. But we want to make sure that exactly what I was asked here, that the students just not going to simply copy and paste and solve it. I'm sure they can do that, but hopefully the assignments will lead these students to engage with this in a way that they learn more, even if they're tempted to use the AI, that they can learn, right? Challenge the assumptions, question, how are you able to defend? It's almost as if you prepare a report, now you put it in front of the board or an analyst conference call and say, go defend, and you're going to be grilled by analysts on the things that you just presented, right? How do you ensure that you can generate something that looks very good, but then be on our feet to be able to defend.
Awesome. There are tons of questions here, and I'm trying to find the best one for us to end on. As I'm doing that, I want to thank everybody again for the opportunity to hear from Rodrigo and hear the different ways that MIT is preparing our students for the AI world. With that said, we're going to end on. Oh my goodness, where did the question go?
I have a thought, Rayvon, if you want. I can close on
Yes,
that
please.
thought. So there is no question, right, that AI is changing the way we do the work. I guess that what I would like to leave you with this thought is that, one, we understand that. Two, we're working really hard to embrace this. Not only push that on you, but to find the right balance between giving you the capabilities that you need for the world in which AI is going to be prevalent, and yet kind of like learning you to experience something really unique. I tell these students, every student that comes here, I say, being at MIT is a blessing. It's a really special place. Going back to the point, I really hope that each of you are going to have an inflection point in the experience that you experience here. AI is part of that. We are trying to do the best that we can to kind of like make that delta as steep in your life as possible. And you can count on us. The only last thing I would say is that in a world with technology and AI, right, Sloan is a school that it's embedded in that. In fact, the name that we use is not Sloan, but it's MIT Sloan, because we understand the importance of management applied to science, to humanity, to engineering, right? And how is AI is connected to the rest. So I hope it can convey to you how exciting it is to be here, how we see AI as part of the future that we're embracing, understanding the challenge. We don't have all the answers, but we're working really hard to give the best to you as a student when you come to here.